In Week 12 of the NFL season, Lamar causes a fuss with Gus, Atlanta throw Dan Quinn under the bus, and the MVP race leaves Seattle and Russ. This week, we do nothing but cuss. You're listening to the Snap UK. Let's do this.
Hello and welcome to the Snap UK podcast, your weekly review of all things NFL by those in the know on this side of the pond. I'm Johnny Frash, and with me at the round table I have Fourth and Inches, Jimmy G and Griff. The Vikings, Chargers, Chiefs and Cardinals were all on the bye, but no matter. Week 12 served up yet more wins for those at the top and further misery for those at the bottom. Some teams were eliminated from playoff contention, whilst others only continued to cement their postseason hopes. We even got to watch Jeff Driscoll take on Dwayne Haskins, which was something. But let's get this party started with a look at the best team in the NFC. The 49ers took on and dismantled the Green Bay Packers on Sunday night. Jimmy G and friends putting up 37 points. While holding Aaron Rodgers to just 104 yards. Is this the game where we finally anoint the Niners as the NFC's representatives in the Super Bowl?
I'd like to start by saying I was doing that 2 weeks ago, but the Packers shit the bed here. All right?
Okay. Yeah.
But they were a team coming in, they were 8-1, weren't they, the Packers? All right.
8-2.
8-2.
Not quite.
I was almost there. But they're a team that this should have been a more competitive game.
Well, there's a reason they flexed it into prime time, because everyone was expecting it to be a very competitive game. They had some of the best defense against what should have been the best offense under Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers. But like you say, he properly shit the bed.
Yeah.
That 49ers defence is pretty something, isn't it?
It is. I think like they've invested a lot in the defensive line, and I think the missing piece was always a true edge rusher, which they've got now. Nick Bosa, he's undeniably the defensive rookie of the year. I can't think of anyone else that comes close to him. I think he's even challenging for defensive player of the year. There are a few others that are doing as well, so he probably won't win that. But I think it wasn't just the defense. The offense turned up as well. They looked, I don't think the Green Bay defense was terrible. They got to Jimmy Garoppolo 3 times and they put him under pressure. But the scheming that Kyle Shanahan had just had them all over the shop. Like the George Kittle touchdown and 61-yard pass, he was more or less completely open. As a tight end, it's not a speedy wide receiver. Okay, he's fast for a tight end, but he was completely wide open. There was no pressure on Jimmy G. It was an easy throw to him to make. It was a good throw, all the same, but he was able to run in for a touchdown.
I didn't play Debo in fantasy this week, but his yards after catch are just insane, absolutely insane as well.
He's like I think in terms of yards after catch and his ability to run, he's like a running back, because he's slightly squatter, he's strong, he's very quick. I think he reminds me a little bit like Antonio Brown, in that he is a bit smaller than your traditional wide receiver, but he catches the ball and you just can't catch him.
He reminds me very much of when Shanahan was at the Falcons and you had Taylor Gabriel, who for all intents has been terrible since. Yeah. But in Atlanta that season, he was phenomenal. He seems to have taken that spot in Shanahan's scheme.
Yeah. And this is we argued last week about Garoppolo. And this is one of the games where he was clean. He didn't throw any interceptions, 2 touchdowns, decent pass completion, nearly 75%, 14 from 20, 253 yards. One of the stats that came out, I think kind of Peter King had it in his article this week, was on 10 drives this season that immediately followed followed interception. Garoppolo has completed 32 of 35 passes for 288 yards, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. So yeah, if he does throw an interception, he is capable of doing it. He does throw wayward passes here and there, but he's got that ability to just forget about it and move on, which I think is a massive strength for a quarterback. But on Sunday, he was almost flawless.
You think there hasn't actually been that much movement in the roster before the start of this season, had there? Other than Nick Bosa.
Yeah, I mean, it's only on the defensive side that there was a lot of changes. So Bosa and D Ford came in, but aside from that,
He just seems to have this X factor because that beat hard and Mullins didn't have last season.
He's clearly a better quarterback. Nobody's claiming otherwise. And it continues to make good progress. I will take issue with the fact that the Packers' defense was pretty terrible, and they have slowly been failing to provide proper coverage since week 1 when they started off hot, and they're just getting worse. More of a problem in this game is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has now played 85 career games away from Lambeau Field. How many has he won?
27.
No, it's more than that.
42.
Yes, it's 42.
Well,
He is
I literally
42.
plucked that number out.
He is 42 and 43 away from Lambeau in his career, which is a god-awful number for a man who has supposedly been one of the best 3 quarterbacks in the last 12 years, right?
No, supposedly. He's been one of the best 3 quarterbacks of the last
Yeah, but
12 years.
tells you maybe he's not.
It tells you the team isn't the best.
How many losing seasons has Russell Wilson had?
None.
Yeah, but
None.
Russell Wilson's the first quarterback with 8 consecutive winning seasons to start a career.
And the only reason Tom Brady doesn't have that is because he got injured.
He didn't
But-
start the first season.
Yeah, and he didn't start the first season. But my point being is Aaron Rodgers has clearly been very good, but it's been dressed up. How many times in the last 4 years has Aaron Rodgers' team been blown out by 30 points?
Oh, but this isn't getting blown out by the Bengals. This is getting blown out by a very, very good team.
It is, but still. How many times have the Patriots been blown out? In 5 years. How many times?
Yeah, but
Twice?
that's
Once?
an inconsistent. That's,
you're comparing apples and shitty fruit.
Well, no. What I'm comparing is New England and Green Bay, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, because those 2 quarterbacks and those 2 teams are supposed to be rivals.
Well, they are, but the Pats are good.
the Pats have been to the Super Bowl 4 times in those 5 years.
Green Bay got a new head coach, a young defence, some receivers, apart from Devontae Adams, never heard of.
But at the same point,
you can't compare.
But at the same point, look at the receivers that Tom Brady's had.
Tom Brady's throwing to you, me, and
Edelman.
That first ballot Hall of Famer tight end,
who's that?
Gronk.
Well,
Throw
he's not
to
throwing
him.
to him this season.
This
and
season.
he's not looking very good.
terrible. this season.
And he missed half of the games over his last 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? No. And running backs. The running back stable in New England changes every year. It does not do that in Green Bay.
But you had Super Bowl winner LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, but the point is they
Who
made
left
him
and
into
became
they
Super
made
Bowl.
him into a Super Bowl winner.
And
They didn't bring him on as a
He's
Super
got
Bowl.
Well, do you-
Belichick.
I was going to say,
and the
yes.
defence.
who do you put it on? Do you put it on Rodgers and Brady, or do you put it on Mike McCarthy and Belichick?
Well,
Yeah.
all of it. It's
Or do you,
packages.
do you put it on a team building?
I'm just saying
in
you can't say Rodgers isn't a top 3 quarterback because
I'm
he gets
not.
blown out.
I'm not
It's
saying he's
the whole
not.
team.
I'd say that-
but I'm saying
yeah.
if I had a team and I had a drive to win the game, you'd have a pick of quarterbacks to do it. You'd probably want an Aaron Rodgers, a Tom Brady of a few years ago, or Russell Wilson.
Yeah, that's fair. I think
But it doesn't mean he's a bad player.
No.
It just means he's currently playing in a bad team.
If it's a 4th quarter drive to equal or win, I'd want Matt Stafford. But he's played for a dross team.
that's fair. I think the biggest issue I've highlighted this last season with Aaron Rodgers is his leadership ability and, well, his complete
Yes.
lack of it. I don't think he's the player that when the chips are down and you're starting to lose even a tight game or
Yeah.
not so tight game like they were, he's not the quarterback I want leading the team. Let's face it, the drive where they did score some points, where they scored like 8 points, but bear in mind at that point they were 23-0 down. They took 8 minutes to complete that drive. I don't know if that's on the coach or if that's on Aaron Rodgers not wanting to play a fast game. But you're 23 points down.
Yeah.
You've got to speed. That's got to be speed up.
And that I will go with. And it does feel very much on the downward curve for the last couple of years. But I'm just saying,
All right,
to base that.
But here's the point of comparison, right? Players with better away records than Aaron Rodgers include Alex Smith, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers.
So Philip Rivers is, by passing yardage and touchdowns, is one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
But regularly on this show, we slate him for being a choker.
The last few seasons.
Yeah, okay. But I'm talking specifically about the last 5. It's a career thing for Rodgers, but I'm focusing on the last 5.
Two-time Super Bowl winning MVP Eli Manning. Of course he's better than Rodgers.
I'm just saying, like, there are...
Who was the other one?
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith.
Yeah. The ultimate game manager.
Well, not anymore because he's injured, so that mantle has passed to Aaron Rodgers.
He hasn't got a leg to stand on this year.
He really doesn't. Also, we're on a smaller game sample size, but it did make me chuckle. Next on the list is Matt Sharp. Has a much better away winning percentage by roughly 30% over Aaron Rodgers.
Well, it just tells you stats can prove anything.
Yeah, it does. I'm just saying. We've been watching Aaron Rodgers slowly descend into not being an all-conquering quarterback for years.
Yeah. Injuries have had an effect, and
there are easily 5 or 6 quarterbacks you would take ahead of him now, and yet we're always told to watch out for Aaron Rodgers.
Well, yeah, because even on that case, he's still the 6th best quarterback.
He seems to be a bit like Elway in his last few years at Denver, where
it's not that bad.
No, but I mean, to be fair, it seems to be a similar scheme of, he's a great quarterback. Here's some running backs.
Yeah, and that all good quarterbacks need running backs. I'm yet to have been impressed by Rodgers this season. He's had 1 or 2 decent games.
He's had 1 or 2 great games.
All right, he's had 1 or 2 great games.
He's had a perfect passer rating with 4 touchdowns in one game.
And then he's had 4 or 5 really poor games where sometimes the team has carried him and sometimes it hasn't. And I don't understand. And I've said the same about Brady. The New England team is carrying Brady. This Packers team has to carry Aaron Rodgers now. He does not make the team a winner. He's just part of the system. I don't think that's unfair at all.
No, I don't think it is. On to happier things. The depth of the 49ers defense is looking...
Happier for who?
Happier for me.
The depth of the 49ers defense is seriously impressive. This team is seriously going all the way.
I mean, you even look like with Quan Alexander going out, Fred Warner stepped up and has been amazing. He had 11 tackles on Sunday night. And he's had the most tackles in the team. He's led the team in tackles in each of the last 4 games, and 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. He's stepped up. Dre Greenlaw stepped up. And even on the cornerbacks now, Killer Witherspoon's come back, and he can't get in the team because undrafted free agent Emmanuel Mosley is playing lights out opposite Richard Sherman.
Did Eric Armstead leave this game with an injury?
I didn't.
Because he has 10 sacks this season.
10 sacks on the season.
He's been incredibly impressive, and I thought I saw that he got an injury designation and didn't come back into the game. But I haven't been able to find it while we've been sitting here. So hopefully he's not out for too long because he's a machine on your defense.
There was DJ Jones, who they brought in when one of the other defensive tackles was injured. I think he's going to have got a broken arm, but he carried on playing with a broken arm and only found out afterwards.
Why not?
He's now gone on to injured reserve. But there's still enough talent on that defensive line to trouble most teams, I think.
Without doubt.
So, should mention that elsewhere in the Packers division, the Vikings.
The Vikings, who didn't play, had the biggest win, basically.
Yeah.
Because it just keeps them so in touch. Were they joint top of that division?
Yeah,
yeah.
8 and 2.
They're both 8 and 2. I think Packers have it just on the fact that they beat the Vikings.
Yeah, they do. But this was by far the best thing that could happen to Vikings. But they managed to win, and they didn't have to rely on Kirk Cousins. Is effectively what happened. That's an amazing weekend for everybody.
Kirk Cousins should be in that MVP contendership at the moment.
Yeah, but he's Kirk Cousins.
I know.
It's the same reason why Matt Stafford wouldn't have been, even if he was still playing. It is amazing.
So unfashionable.
Yeah, no, it's such an unfashionable shout. But was it 24 touchdowns to 3 interceptions?
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, I mean, that was a big win for them, and I think the key now is I think the Packers have to go to Minnesota to play them later in the season. I mean, it's the second to last game, so that is probably a win or bust game.
Well, should we mention elsewhere in the NFC, the Saints and the Panthers clashed in the tightest of tight games. The Saints come out on top thanks to, we're going to say it again, more awful kicking.
So for a guy whose surname is Sly, he was pretty evident, wasn't he?
2 missed PATs and a field goal. I believe it was 28 yard. It had a 93.5% chance of being made. It is the worst miss by percentage chance of being made of the season. And he didn't just miss. We could have done a better job.
Stoink.
It was bad. The guy looks like he bench presses about 400 pounds. He needs to just work on his kicking.
Yeah.
Stop trying to man up with all the other guys in the team because the only reason you need to feel more manly is because you're crap at kicking. Just be better at your job. This was not good. The Saints probably deserved to win this, but they only won it.
No, the Saints didn't deserve to win it because the Panthers should have beat them.
Well, this would have tied the game.
Joey Sly's kicking.
This would have tied the game, and you get the feeling Breeze would have outplayed Allen in an overtime scenario.
Oh yeah.
Also, this was the first game this season where Breeze averaged more than 8 yards per attempt. So he really was.
No, it was to win the game, wasn't it?
Thought he had 8 yards.
It was 31-31.
Yep.
And then they went up the other end.
Yeah, you can say
31.
that. Yeah, the Saints probably would have gone up the other end and done exactly what they did.
Yeah, I mean, but the Saints weren't playing well.
They weren't, and they've lost their left guard and left tackle, who have both got injured. I think they're both going to be out for a month, so that's going to be a problem.
Back in time for the playoffs, they'll be fine.
Yeah, but
is it not more of a concern that Alvin Kamara just isn't playing very well?
they just don't seem to be rushing very often at all. Like even Latavius Murray's been really, really good actually at the Saints, but even he only had 7 carries for 64 yards. Kamara 11 carries for 54 yards. It's an average of 4.9 yards per carry, which you'd be happy with. I don't know. They seem to be using him more as a decoy than anything else.
He was a touchdown machine last year. He hasn't had one since week 6 this year.
Tell me about it. Yeah, I know.
Some
of us have him in his fantasy team.
It's an odd regression. That's all. It strikes me as very odd. Something that hasn't gone backwards is Michael Thomas, 101 yards this week, 10 receptions. I think he needs to average 8 receptions a game to break the record over the rest of the season.
Which you could easily see him doing because he's like the number 1, 2, 3 option for Breeze.
Well, yeah, Jared Cook is...
No. Is he free? No. Is he free? A little bit. I'll pass it to him.
Is he triple covered?
Yeah.
He's not quadruple covered. Give him the ball.
It's only for him.
Well, when numbers 2 and 3 are Ted Ginn and Traquan Smith, you know, you might as well just throw out Michael Thomas and hope for the best. Jared Cook played well, 99 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, great for my fantasy team.
Absolutely.
Do you know who's had a really sneaky good season though this year? Is DJ Moore, the wide receiver for the Panthers. He had 6 receptions, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns. But that's just a typical aspect. He's been playing really well all season. I've had him in my fantasy leagues. I've noticed him more. He consistently getting me 10, 15 points every week.
I love that there were stats that came out. He was getting a bit of a pasting, I saw on Twitter before the game. Because touchdown numbers.
He hadn't scored since week 2.
Yeah, he had 1 touchdown going into this game.
Heck of a product. I mean, look, they've got Christian McCaffrey. If they get within 5 yards of the goal line, they're going to be giving it to Christian McCaffrey, or they're going to be doing a play action and passing it to Christian McCaffrey. So for DJ Moore to score, he probably has to score from a long way out, but he's getting them up and down. He's doing what Julio Jones does for the Falcons a couple of years back, where he wasn't getting any touchdowns, but he's getting them up and down the field as well.
Yeah, I think he's been quietly impressive. I don't know what else you could have, especially for a team that's had the turnover at quarterback. And
yeah, I mean, let's remember who's throwing to him at the moment as well.
Hey, I think Kyle Allen's doing a fine job. No problem there. I mean, the loss is not on him. He was keeping up with Drew Brees. What more do you want a young guy to do?
Drew Brees.
Keeping your team in a race with Drew Brees.
Let's also remember that the Saints were without Marshall Lattimore as well, their number 1 cornerback. So it wasn't the full Saints defensive.
But this time of the year, that's true of every team.
Yeah, that's true. You have to have depth there.
Every other team didn't have Marshall Lattimore either.
No, absolutely. But he ended up with a higher quarterback rating and only 1 point behind in passer rating, I believe, Kyle Allen over Drew Brees. So I don't know. I don't think you can even look to him. He's had a fine season for what is basically a rookie, and the rest of the team is now not able to keep up. When you've got Christian McCaffrey in your team and he's been putting up the numbers he's been putting up, you shouldn't ever at any point in the season have a losing record. But they do, because the defence comes and goes depending on how they feel. And some of the coaching decisions are not brilliant, and this week the kicking was not brilliant. In fact, it was pretty poor. So there's just no way you can point any fingers at Kyle Allen. It's not on him. He had that one awful game a few weeks ago when he 4 interceptions. Yeah. Other than that, I mean...
He had a pretty bad game against the 49ers as well.
No, but that was the 49ers. They just destroyed him.
Unfair.
As they will do to a lot of people.
Do you think Riverboat Ron's gone at the end of the season?
No, I don't think he's gone, because I think he will say... Cam Newton's out here. We're sticking with Kyle Allen. Give me another season to work with this quarterback. That is what I think.
That's a big risk to put your coaching career on the line for Kyle
Riverboat Ron.
But you look at some of the other teams, Marvin Lewis was awful.
Yeah, but that's the Bengals.
Yeah, but at least he made the Bengals serviceable.
The Panthers, David Tepper, the owners, he came in last season, new owner. He probably didn't want to rock the boat too much in his first off season. Now he's had a season to kind of properly bed in, see what he's got.
So do you think he's going to rock the riverboat then?
I could see him not only rocking the riverboat, but getting rid of the whole front office and starting again. Because I think if they are going to get rid of Cam Newton, that's almost saying, right, well, we need to go into a mini rebuild. I think they've got a lot of pieces on offense, they've got a lot of pieces on defenses, but they've never really the last few years, they've never really put it all together.
No, shout for Eric Reid on this team, though. He had 11 solo tackles, 15 tackles in total. No one else had more than 5 solo tackles on the Panthers' defense. That's a mightily impressive day. He was everywhere.
He's a mightily impressive player. I loved him when he was at the 49ers. I was gutted they let him go.
And on the Saints' defence, I know Latimore wasn't there, but yeah, if you are 5 yards from goal, I probably would watch McCaffrey. They just kept losing him. And then, it's easy to say, but yeah. Every time.
You think he'd be the guy you'd be focused on?
We sat there on Red Zone thinking, well, we're watching it going, well, McCaffrey's in 10 yards of space. How is he again in 10 yards of space? But yeah.
Did you know on their defence for the Saints, they have a player called Shy Tuttle?
No.
It just sounds like a turtle that never comes out of his shell. he just sits there on the line, just in a little shell suit, and never does anything. Shy Tuttle. There he is. He's not playing today, but he did outperform Eli Apple. Do you remember him?
Yeah, an apple a day keeps the championship away.
It certainly does.
So, remaining in the NFC, the Seahawks it was a turgid game, really.
Pretty horrible.
But they beat the Eagles 17-9. Which saw Wentz injure his hand and Rashard Penny put up his first 100-yard game of the season. The Eagles are getting worse, aren't they?
The defense is getting good. I think,
the defense is steadily improving. The offense is falling off a cliff.
The offense is terrible. They've had 1 touchdown in the last 24 drives.
Since Frank Reich, he of the Third Reich, left the Eagles, Wentz is 10-12 as a starter. He needs coaching. His mechanics are off. His timing is off. He was throwing balls at open receivers that were 4 yards above their head. It was on him.
Some of it was. When Wilson's doing the same thing, you have to
Wilson did it once. Wilson had that rollout where he threw to the end zone and the ball floated above the guy's head in the wind. Yes, absolutely.
The guy who was my tight end fantasy, and
absolutely. And that's
Wilson like never before.
It was a terrible throw, and it's like they said on the coverage. He basically saw the easiest throw going and just floated it over there, and the wind took it and carried it. But Wentz did it 6, 7, 8 times. It was really, really awful stuff. And it's not just this week in the bad weather. He's been doing this all season.
Yeah,
he looks like a different player.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
They have got a heck of a lot of injuries on that, and I know he was overthrowing receivers, but they got injuries on the offensive line as well. The running game's not done anything at all.
Well, they got Jay Ajayi in 6 carries for 16 yards. That was well worth turning up for from London. Well done.
But Carson Wentz had 5 carries for 27 yards.
Yes, he did.
This is a team that just imagine what they could have done with a Super Bowl MVP at quarterback.
Well, the point is, at the moment, they couldn't do any worse. Nick Foles wouldn't have any more trouble than Carson Wentz. Wentz is an excellent and well-talented athlete, but it's the coaching of him that's the problem.
I do laugh. We had the whole debate last year of would you keep Foles or Wentz? Because, Foles is Foles, and but Wentz is always injured. And, of course, what happens is Foles... First game gets injured. So, yeah.
It's absolutely true. Like you say, Wilson, the weather did play a part. Wilson only 13 of 25, 200 yards, had a pick.
6 sacks on Wilson.
And was sacked 6 times. He was running for his life. If you're telling me the Philadelphia O-line isn't great, the Seahawks O-line is pants.
It's terrible.
And he's the only reason they stay in games.
Oh, yes. God, yeah.
It was good to see Rashard Penny put up 129 yards and a touchdown. But Chris Carson was equally disappointing on the day. It just seemed to be working for one and not for another. Did Carson lose a fumble this week? He was on like a 3-game sled.
Didn't he lose? Might have lost 2.
He was on.
Didn't he lose 2 in 2?
Three fumbles. He lost 2 of them.
2 in 2 plays. Yeah. I don't know. He's a talented player, but he struggles with his balls. He just.
Do
you know anyone like that?
Yeah.
I'd trade him for a penny.
Well,
He,
absolutely.
him and Jones are having a race for most fumbles this year. It's bizarre, but yeah,
I think Jones
is going to win.
He's win that.
He's won that.
Clearly in the
winning
lead.
that. But Carson's going to hit double figures for fumbles.
Yeah, he's having a terrible year. I don't know what's wrong with him. He was brilliant. That season they won the Super Bowl, he was amazing. And he thought, right, they've got a franchise quarterback for the next 10, 15 years. And he's not been the same since that injury. He came back last year. He was average to good. Then he got injured again. If ever there's a team that needs the off-season and a quarterback that needs the off-season, it's probably the Eagles. Well, there's probably several. But the Eagles, I think, they're still technically in the run, but in the playoff hunt, but
Only because their division is bad.
But
Yeah,
that's Dallas's fault.
yeah, I mean it's because the NFC East is just so bad.
This week's Who the Fuck Are You? Greg Ward Jr. Anyone ever heard of him before? Greg Ward Jr.?
Not before. Apparently, he used to be a quarterback in college.
Apparently so. 6 receptions for 40 yards for the Eagles today. Like was said on the show, they are missing a lot of players. JJ Arthega-Whiteside.
Yeah.
Apparently you don't pronounce the C. It's just Arthega-Whiteside.
Ah.
He was their number 2 receiver. But
Yeah, he was number 2. You're right.
he was absolutely number 2. But Greg Ward Jr., stepped up, did his job, considering no one knows who he is. It might as well have been Paul Farrow from Northamptonshire.
If your number one receiver is Aguilar, you're having issues.
Well, Alshon Jeffrey and Aguilar are both injured. So Zach Ertz was the leading receiver with 12 receptions for 91 yards. Arthega-Whiteside, because I can't do the thing.
Arthega.
Greg Ward, Dallas Goddard. Jordan Matthews played.
They've dropped him.
And now they've cut him.
dropped
Yeah,
him.
he's
And Miles
gone.
Sanders. They're the only people that made receptions.
There's not a lot there, but a healthy and well-coached Carson Wentz picks out these players.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm
that is the
saying.
difference. That's where we're always going to get back to. And I don't know if it's on the head coach or whether just because they lost. Who replaced Reich? Was it John DeFilippo or am I
No,
imagining it?
DeFilippo. He was the quarterback's coach.
He was the quarterback's coach.
And he went to the Vikings as a
So
defensive
he's
coordinator.
lost both of these players
Yeah,
who've had impacts on him. These coaches have had impacts, and I just don't think they've done a good enough job of replacing him. Don't forget, what is he, 4 years into his career?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
his fourth
And
year.
he's missed nearly 2 full seasons with injury.
Yeah.
So it's harsh to single him out, but clearly, if you fix him, it would fix 3/4 of the problems with the
Exactly,
team.
because he's obviously talented. He's a very athletic quarterback, so he's got all the traits to be a good quarterback. But there's, like you say, there's something missing. It seems like coaching is probably the answer.
Do you want to talk about the Giants losing to the Bears?
Nope.
I think that's the best decision you've made in weeks on this podcast.
Yeah.
So the Giants lost 14
gonna
to
talk
19.
about
Yeah, because I knew you wouldn't want to. They lost 14 to 19. Pat Shermer's done
Yeah.
because this was a game you probably should have been winning because the Bears are pony.
On paper, they should beat us.
What is the deal with Saquon Barkley? Why have you not shut him down? What is the point of risking him now? Because he's been carrying injuries. He's been struggling. Just get him off the field and wait till next year.
Are we still potentially mathematically having a chance of the playoffs?
No,
Yeah, they're not technically eliminated
Yeah.
because the
We
division is so
they are
bad.
technically eliminated because they got Daniel Jones at quarterback.
I don't think he's just the problem. The whole team is a problem. But you're only 4 games off the top of the division or something, aren't you? But you've lost 7 straight, and you haven't really looked like you're in the games. And it's
No.
disappointing because when Jones started and you won 2 games, it looked like a breath of fresh air. Now it looks like the same old, same
Beginner's
old.
luck.
It could well be.
And Daniel Jones was drafted number 6, which everyone said was too high for him. He came in, did a good job to start off with, and I was like, it's a brilliant piece of drafting. Awesome. But now it's come true. He's a rookie
Yeah.
that isn't very good.
Who fumbles too much.
Fumbles too much, and fumble was an issue for him. It was an issue for Sam Darnold as well, but they fixed it at the Jets. So there's a coaching issue there. Where
Bigger gloves.
bigger gloves.
Bigger
Daniel.
sticky gloves.
Daniel, stop it.
Yeah, stop fumbling the ball.
My biggest concern with the Giants is they're putting a lot of work through Saquon that is unnecessary. Play Wayne Gorman or whoever it is as your number 2 back.
is Wayne Gorman.
Ride out the season, get another high draft pick, keep building your team, and make him fresh for
But
next year.
this is now going to be what, the 3rd season when
Yeah,
they got a
but-
high draft pick.
But you
like
think
that
about
high?
it, we get Daniel Jones, we get Barkley, Jerry Jeudy this year.
Hopefully, yeah.
That'd be great.
Depends where you're picking, but I'd be going Chase Young if you get the number 2 pick and you have what is probably one of the best pass rushers to come out of college.
Do you
You don't win
remember the
championships with
famous
pass
boat
rushers.
picture the last time the Giants made the playoffs?
Yep.
Yeah.
What was your record that season? 10-6.
Yeah, something like
I
that.
think so. Which means since that boat picture, you haven't won that many games again in
Yeah.
total, which is a catastrophe for such a what should be a well-renowned good team. I
The
fear
Jets have beaten more teams in the NFC East than
Then-
we
yeah.
have in the last
that
few
is
years.
a great stat. Pat Shermer wasn't the right coaching appointment. The guy before, the fat chubby fella,
McAdoo.
he wasn't the right appointment.
McAdoo.
The next appointment you make is crucial because you have your new quarterback, who we think has some actual talent, and you have a running back who's going to be entering his third year. So you've got potentially
two more years.
2 or 3
You've got
more
3 more
years
years left of him.
where he's going to be really good, and you need to get it right now. Golden Tate's actually been quite good, so use him while he's there.
Oh, Slayton's there,
Slayton
right?
looks
Slayton's
good.
good, yeah.
I think you've got some offensive pieces. I really do. Use the high draft picks for the defense and appoint the right coach because Pat Shermer is the wrong coach.
Yep.
Right, moving on from that because we didn't want to talk about it too long. Here's another game we don't want to spend too long on. Redskins beat the Lions 19-16. 19-16s? 19-16. It's been a long day. And we got a laugh of watching Dwayne Haskins forget that he needed to be on the field for the last play of the game.
To be fair, like you only had to go on the film because they got an interception.
But even so,
yeah. I mean,
he was
it's pretty
having
unprofessional.
selfies taken with the crowd, and they had to send Case Keenum out to take a knee.
Yeah, but
That's not responsible quarterbacking, though, is it?
no,
That's dicking about.
But that's your first game-winning drive.
Yeah, come on, give the guy
No,
a break.
I want him to be responsible. After he got seen on camera admonishing his offensive lineman last week, and they basically said, "Who are you?" This week he needed to
They
be.
didn't say anything. They just
They just looked at him and then wandered off. This week he needed to be the leader, and he's still not the leader. He's just a kid playing games. He won against a team led by Jeff Driscoll.
Mate, we've been through this. Jeff Driscoll is an all right quarterback.
Yes.
No, Jeff Driscoll is a good runner. He's not an all right quarterback.
He's an athlete.
Yeah, he's an athlete. Yeah, that's exactly what he is. Really, the only good thing about the Redskins is still Scary Terry, who had quite a couple of weeks and then turned up again. So that's good.
That literally is the only good thing about the Redskins at the moment.
What do we think about the Redskins' defence? They've not been getting.
I don't think it's very good.
No,
I don't think it's great.
I think it's better than their record shows, but I don't know how you.
I think they're on the field too long, which doesn't help.
Yes, that is.
They've got Adrian Peterson can't be a lead running back at this point of time. Darius Geis has only just come back, so we're yet to see kind of what he can actually do. All right, 10 carries, 32 yards, 3.2 yards a carry. But yeah, the problem, I think that you're right, there are some good pieces on that Washington defense, but they're on the field too long, too often.
Absolutely.
Like, they're just going to get murdered by a decent team, and they almost lost to a pretty average team in Detroit.
so your best tackle the AFC as well, and
Why? The Rams didn't.
hey, so 2 teams are leading the way there. So first up, let's take a look at Monday Night Football. And the Ravens 45-6 demolition of the Rams. 2 teams just heading in opposite directions. Where do you want to start on them?
So the Patriots didn't just take the Super Bowl from the Rams. They took McVay's talent.
And soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, Jared Goff continues to be something less than mediocre. So currently,
That's being nice.
currently we have in the past agreed that Andy Dalton is the midline of quarterbacks. I believe he is.
Goff's not midline.
No.
I hope
Goff,
you're not going there.
no. What I'm going is Goff is somewhere behind the Dalton. In this.
The Dalton scale was set up for very specific reasoning to bring an average.
Okay, so where is
Dalton,
Goff?
the Bengals sucked and shit the bed on a regular basis, right?
Yep.
But it was never Dalton's fault.
Very rarely, yeah.
The Rams have a bed covered in shite. Like
This is-
caked in shite.
Well, who's the
for
fella
weeks.
from Train Spotting? This is his
Yeah.
Spud's bed.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is look, 200.
So, but with that,
Yeah,
Goff has been responsible for a lot of the bed shitting in the last few weeks.
He's not throwing a touchdown in November.
no, and he now has more picks than touchdowns on the season. I think it's 11 to 12. That
Well, let's face it, and Todd Gurley's not I mean, yes,
No.
Goff has been bad, but Todd Gurley has been equally
6 carries,
bad as
22
well.
yards. I mean,
Like,
the game got out of hand and they couldn't run the ball. But
it looked like they gave up in the second quarter.
Yeah.
It's like, we're never going to win this.
you've got to wonder whether the McVay message has got old very quickly
Yeah.
with this team. It's a concern.
I do worry that we've. Like, how old is McVay?
15.
35?
Yeah,
he
something
peaked?
like that. He's younger than me, so
I don't know. I'm 35 and
Has he-
I've definitely
has he
peaked.
at 34?
I have sympathy with him if that's the case because
'Cause but-
I'm fucked.
Like, and half the NFL must be looking at their coaches, watching this, going, "Is this just predicting our second and third years?"
Yeah, what we just hired. I think the other disappointment in this game was
What the
Wade
hell's going to
Phillips'
happen with
defense
the
as well.
Bengals?
Oh, God knows.
They hired his mate. They're 0-10.
Yes, 0-16 is what's going to happen
But
to
of
the
the
Bengals.
McVay disciples, Lafleur possibly.
LaFleur's doing all right.
LaFleur's doing all right.
Okay, yeah, we had a moan about the Green Bay Packers on Sunday.
They're winning.
They're still 8 and
That's a
3,
Yeah.
and top of their division.
But yeah,
Yeah, I think the defense worries me here as well because, we know Lamar Jackson is brilliant. We know this is a good offense, but they just looked inept. They looked completely inept. And they've got good pieces. They've got Aaron Donald, and they've got, what's his face, Jalen Ramsey.
And Clay Matthews, who
And
started the
Clay
season
Matthews,
really
yeah.
hot.
Do you know who they
And
could-
Dante Fowler.
do you know who they could do with? Is the Ravens' version of Marcus Peters.
yeah, the guy who's not getting beaten in coverage. every
Yeah.
week.
Basically, Marcus Peters not in LA.
Any other
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean,
Apart from when he plays in LA for a team that's not from LA.
I mean, you'd rather have the Marcus Peters who went nuts and threw his socks and everything into the field while
Against the Jets,
Yeah,
To the point where the ref was just going to pull his trousers down because he'd run out of things. Flags. Don't make me do this.
That's definitely an illegal tackle. You're off. Yeah, you're right. The defense is struggling. The offense is struggling. There is nothing good about this team. I mean, McVay had scripted plays last year that they would catch teams out. Hecker was throwing touchdowns last year. There is nothing.
I honestly
and they need a
I
spark.
don't understand how they're 6 and 5 at the moment because
Because
they
they've
just
got
look-
so much talent. They
they
can win
look
games on that
inept.
alone. But
it's just like last night they just looked terrible. The tackling was bad, the positioning, the coverage was bad, the offense was non-existent. Like they went to the Super Bowl for last year, for crying out loud. How do they lose 45-6 at home? Okay, yes, they've lost to a good team, but they didn't even put up a fight.
no, I don't know. There isn't one thing that you could remedy. It's not like you could take Goff out, put Blake Bortles in, and it might solve it for a couple of weeks while Goff gets over an injury, for
I
instance.
actually think it might not be a bad idea at the moment.
I think it'd be. I think
because Goff's confidence is
it must
shot
be
to shit.
absolutely.
Paul, do you
Yeah.
want to join in with that? You think Bortles should be in? Because I'll tell you what, I am giving my vote to Blake Bortles because Jared Goff looks done.
You've given him one of the biggest quarterback contracts ever.
Yeah, 33 million a year.
So
Yeah.
give him a few games off
No,
to recover.
but you
I
pay
know,
him
I
that sort
know,
of money.
yeah.
You can't.
You can't, yeah.
You can't. You pay
But
him
he's
money.
useless to you when he's playing like this. You've got all these talented receivers and nothing's happening.
It's okay if they trade him away this summer. It's only going to cost them 51
They're-
million.
No,
cap space.
Goff is a good player. It's the same as Wentz. The two of them came out the draft together. They're both really talented, really good quarterbacks who are not being coached properly and are not being given the support off the field that they need.
I think McVay needs a break.
Probably. It might have been too much for him, too young.
Is he the Mourinho of American football?
I don't know. Is he a dick?
It wasn't Mourinho. Oh, no, I'm making Marino.
Got very confused. You're a completely different sport.
Jose Mourinho.
Jose Marino. Because the problem with Marino is he never won anything. Yeah, Dan Marino was rubbish. Yeah, look,
Yeah, potentially.
McVay might well need some sort of support as well because he was anointed. That's the right word, isn't it? As this all-conquering
Yes, he was.
new
Yeah, I
level
think
of
he was
coach.
brilliant his first two
Yes, he
seasons,
was.
but this has been.
But this is bad.
Has he been
Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, continues to impress and has built a brilliant team from the ashes of nothing. I don't think McVay's are capable of getting near him at the moment.
But
No, definitely not.
Shanahan had this amazing electric Falcons offense. McVay was the offensive coordinator at the Skins.
Yeah.
They weren't that good, were they?
No.
So while we're continuing to beat the Rams down, we have to look at.
So let's praise the Ravens. For
Yeah, Lamar Jackson only threw for 169 yards in this game, but 5 touchdowns.
They
off of
had
that.
They had 285 yards total rushing against the Rams.
Yeah.
And when you've got Aaron Donald in your team, you shouldn't be having 285 yards rushing against you.
Don't have one tackle.
Yeah, it's.
But you can't.
Anyway, we're talking about the good. Sorry.
Gus Edwards.
This is good. You can't tackle what you can't catch.
No, it's
Yeah.
true. But Gus Edwards had 55 yards. Lamar Jackson 95. Mark Ingram 111. Yeah, Robert Griffin.
111 off 15 carries.
Robert Griffin -3. Just saying. Remember him? He was good once.
Isn't that just like 3 kneel downs?
Yeah, 3-0 down.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
He did throw 3 passes as well. He only completed one of them, sadly.
He's not there to do anything other than he is just literally
Closing the game.
He's a guy going out there in a brown coat and a broom.
Yeah. And let's face it, look, I mean, the last
Yeah.
2 results, Ravens have now beaten last year's Super Bowl runners-up, and they've beaten what we thought was a very good Houston team. The collective totals, 86 points scored, 13 conceded.
And they already beat the Super Bowl champions as well.
Yeah.
So, look, the Ravens at the moment are the best team in the AFC, bar none.
Yes.
Bar none. This
I mean,
is
ESPN are going to disagree with you if they put New England on top.
ESPN are wrong, and
the
that's
Power
why I should be
Rankings.
working there and not working for my crummy self. Look, this team is too talented to be anything other than the best. Find me a weakness with this Ravens team. John Harbaugh might be the
Pass
most
rushing?
underrated.
The pass rush ain't
Yeah,
that
they
good.
only got to Jared Goff twice, and that's not the Rams' offensive line has been bad.
Which, by the way, just goes to show you how bad Jared Goff is, as if he was only disrupted that few times and he was still this bad.
Yeah, name their pass rushers.
No, who? Sorry, the Ravens pass rushers.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I could tell you who their pass
That's
rushers
the only place I think they could
Yeah, let's face
possibly
it,
improve on.
Jimmy Smith, the cornerback, got one of those sacks as well. Yeah. So yeah, I think you're right. I think
Yeah.
that's the only place.
Fair. John Harbaugh, the most underrated coach, though, because
Yeah, I think
he
so.
doesn't. We never seem to talk about him, but they're doing an amazing job. And
They've
For now.
But they've completely changed the game plan, haven't they? I mean, they brought in Lamar Jackson last year to put pressure on Joe Flacco.
Yep.
Which he did, and then he's took the job. And now this year, he's like, right, well, we're gonna have Lamar Jackson. We're gonna completely change it. We're gonna play to his strength. We're not going to try and make Lamar Jackson work in a Joe Flacco offense. We're just going to build everything around him. They've probably got the perfect defensive coordinator with Greg Roman, who was Colin Kaepernick's offensive coordinator in the 49ers back when he was good. And he's like, right, I've basically going to run the same offense here with someone who's probably better than what Kaepernick was in his prime. And it's working. Like, I mean, the Ravens 49ers on Sunday, that's going to be a heck of a match.
Oh, it's going to be great, isn't it?
To be Marquise Brown, I think is phenomenal.
Yeah.
What and again, that's just what they did with Lamar Jackson. They just drafted late in the first round and got an absolute steal.
One of my favourite stats was Lamar was 8 for 10 on 3rd down, and those 2 he didn't get, he made on 4th down. He's just efficient.
This is the thing. I mean,
Bizarrely efficient.
they only punted once.
No,
The
we're
Ravens only
probably
punted
going
once
to
all
talk
game.
about 4th down conversions later when we talk about Dallas. When you've got a player like Lamar Jackson, if you're 4th and 3, probably 4th and 5, it's almost worth going for it because that play option is always going to be there, and providing he can get around the outside, he's probably going to make those. He's probably going to make 5 yards every time. And Mark Ingram is playing out of his skin at the moment.
Yeah. Gus the Bus is doing all right. Complimenting Ingram.
Everything is ticking.
Like you say, yeah,
But
everything's working
the
on
the Rams.
The thing that worries me is you don't win the championship at week
in
12.
November. Yeah.
You don't win it in November. And it's,
Yeah, I mean, John Harbaugh in his press conference afterwards was asked that. It's like, are the Ravens the best team in football? And he said exactly that. He said, we're playing very well, but the best team in football, well, we decide that in February.
yeah.
So, and he's experienced. I mean, he's won a Super Bowl. He's experienced enough to know what to do.
The Rams are 4 games back from the Niners and 3 games back from the Seahawks in this division. It is over. They are not making the playoffs.
No.
They are closer to Arizona, who are 3-7-1, than they are to anybody else in the division.
I mean, their only hope is to get a wild card, and they have to rely on the Vikings falling over themselves, I think.
Yeah, I think it's done. I think you stick a fork in the Rams and you tell them figure it out for next year.
I think you give Todd Gurley the rest of the season off and say come back fully fit next year.
As Todd Gurley.
Yeah, because he's been terrible.
Nice for the Rams. They have another running quarterback this weekend. They've got Callum Murray.
Yeah, and
Which is surely going to give that defence.
There's
just
every
more
chance that the Cardinals beat the Rams.
Yeah.
I don't know who his favourite. I don't look at the gambling and stuff like that. But having looked at the teams over the last few weeks, I know the Cardinals had this week off. You'd say that Arizona are going to win that.
If the Rams play like that, then yeah, Arizona are winning that game because the Arizona offense has been pretty decent.
Okay, well, in the AFC, also in the AFC, Patriots are 10-1, following a narrow 13-9 win over the Cowboys. The conditions were awful, and this was a hard game to watch.
Yes.
But the New England defense remain
annoyingly
good.
It was like one of two games on during that time period, so you're kind of left watching most of it, and not a lot really happened. It's one for the purists.
I think there's certain things they did which made it worthwhile. And you can, the question of, is the New England D this good? Yes.
Yes.
They got Amari Cooper to without a catch.
First time in his
Stephen
career.
Gilmore had more catches than Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, he did. Because he did pick off Dak.
And their defence is that good that Brady can shit the bed.
Apparently so. Brady even had a fumble that he managed to fall on and catch as it was on its way down to the ground. Like
That was actually pretty impressive.
it was. He did a good job to keep his eye on
I've
that.
not seen many 42-year-olds move that quickly.
No.
There's they had a lot of coverage around Belichick doing the NFL 100 top team and being involved in the panel for that. And a lot of it's just finding the way to win. There's always a way to find the way to win.
Yeah.
Now, a few times, you could just flat out cheat. You could find out the play calls of the other team. You could deflate some balls. You can have some fun. But they found the way to win, which was shutting down Amari Cooper. He shut down Amari Cooper. He shut down the Cowboys.
You've got to have the players to do that, though. And Stephen Gilmore, they've got the player to do that. He has
Absolutely.
I think he is. I talked about Nick Bosa being a defensive MVP for the year. I think Stephen Gilmore is probably in that spot at the moment. If quarterbacks threw into the ground rather than throwing at Gilmore this year, they'd have a better QBR.
That's terrifying.
Like, he is shutting down receivers like no one else. I think it's only the fact that he hasn't got the brand name that Darrelle Revis has. He quietly just goes about his business. He doesn't make headlines.
So you're saying I should set up some Gilmore Island T-shirts?
Exactly that, yeah. I think he'd make a fortune. But he's been brilliant, and I hate the fact that he's on the Patriots.
The Patriots special teams also showed up big in this game. The touchdown, the only touchdown of the game, came off of a blocked punt. Michael Slater, just from nowhere, came flying through, blocked the punt. It was a very odd sort of formation that the Patriots lined up in, and the Cowboys just didn't cope with.
Everyone's kind of voting for Pro Bowl at the moment. You can go onto the NFL.com site and vote for who you want to see in the Pro Bowl. Who else do you vote for on special teams other than Matthew Slater?
Matthew Slater gets there every year
because he's brilliant.
I mean,
that's all he does. He just does his job so well.
This is a guy who gets paid like a wide receiver who has caught 2 passes in 7 years.
He has 54 yards receiving in his career.
Yeah, but he's here just to do this because in the third or late third or early fourth quarter, New England punted, and in the wind the ball held up, and the 2 Cowboys return men just stood there looking at it, and he came flying through and downed the ball at like the 15-yard line, and everyone else just looked confused, and he just
I did like the point where I think the Cowboys were about to punt, and the Patriots just didn't put anyone back there, and it completely confused the Cowboys to the extent that they gave away a delay of game penalty.
Yeah, but they couldn't cope.
They just could not figure it out.
All of the things that went wrong in this game are Jason Garrett problems because he just isn't prepared for the 5% that you need to win games like this.
Jerry Jones called him out afterwards where he said it's a coaching thing. Like, special teams and defense is coaching, and like, again, if I was Garrett, I'd be a little bit scared. They're playing on Thursday night, so they're not going to sack him on Sunday.
He won't get sacked mid-season, but he's done at the end of the year.
I don't know. They've sacked people mid-seation beforehand. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, Jones was mad on Sunday.
I do enjoy seeing Jerry Jones waste his money.
If I just go back to Matthew Slater for a moment.
Yeah.
His dad is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. His dad was in
Anyone
the
can
NFL.
get Hall of Fame these days.
Yeah, even Frank Gore. But The other thing, besides the special
one.
teams, is that New England don't really give the ball away. Brady went a very miserable 17 of 37 for 190 yards. But we've said it already. He recovered the fumble when they actually managed to get to him. He was sacked twice for 9 yards, but he gives himself up easily and just keeps hold of the ball. And if the throw isn't there, he wings it out so far out of play and just says, I'm not giving this away. I mean, he's had a couple of bad weeks recently with interceptions where he's been forcing it to receivers that aren't really in tune with what he's doing because we've been shuffling the pack so much. This week, they clearly said, limit the problems and Jason Garrett will beat the Cowboys for you.
Yeah, that's true.
That is what happened.
And that's what happened when they had an opportunity to pull level. They were fourth down. If they would have got a touchdown, they would have pulled level. But he decided to kick the field goal. Like, you've struggled to get into the red zone for the whole game. Just I know I watched it. If you're in the red zone and you've got, I think it was like 6 or 7 minutes left to go.
In those conditions,
conditions, you've got, and even if you don't score a touchdown, you've got the Patriots pinned back. And the defense with the Cowboys is okay. It's decent. Probably top 10 in the league. So there's a very good chance that you've got them pinned back into their own half. And you knew he wasn't going to take the risk because he never takes the risk. He's so predictable. When you're playing Belichick. Belichick's probably like, fourth down here. He's not going for it. It's fine.
Yeah, the Cowboys' chances of winning seriously decreased when they kicked the field goal, even though it meant there'd be a chance for another possession. They still needed a touchdown. It put them 4 points behind. And if you don't go for it there on a day when you can't really pass the ball because the weather's so bad and you've got Zeke, that shows no confidence in your team and it sort of drains the energy out of everybody. And that is what Garrett has been doing for years to this team. It's done there. The Cowboys have got a talented team. They need the final piece of the puzzle.
This is just it. I mean, to be fair to Jerry Jones as GM and god of all things Cowboys, he has built a good team. This is a good roster. They've got 3 good receivers in Gallup, Cobb, and Amari Cooper. They've got an all-star running back. Dak Prescott is having the season of his life so far.
Career year, absolutely.
The defense is good. Like
O-line, the O-line is the best O-line.
Yeah, there are no excuses for Garrett here. No excuses.
No, and it just proves he's not a good enough coach.
No.
If anyone from NFL is listening to this, can you tell me where I can buy the shirt with the pockets in the front that Dak was wearing? Because I want one of them for when we're at Wembley games. It look lovely and warm.
Just buy a jumper.
No, but
When did you
my
get?
jumper's got pockets.
When did you get that old?
I thought it was cool, man.
Yeah, when did you get that old?
Where would you watch coverage in football? Oh, that looks lovely and warm.
Looks like a lovely top.
When I go to the Wembley games, I could have my Werther's originals in there. It'd be lovely. And no, I just thought it was cool. So Thursday night football, Texans and the Colts. Houston coming out on top 20-17, and a nice return to form after the battering they took last week. So
finding out this week is no mean thing.
Yeah, and so has this helped decide the division?
I thought it did until I saw how well the Titans played. We'll get to them, but this basically corrects the wrongs of the week before. Houston never got anything going. They got absolutely demolished. And to come back like this and turn over another team in your division in a close game is good for the soul when you've been battered that badly the week before. If they'd have lost this game, I think there's a chance of a slide in the division. But the win keeps them on top, and it's got to enable you to look back and go, right, that was a blip, we've moved on. If that blip becomes a slide, you're in trouble, especially in a division that's this tight.
Yeah, this is one of the tightest divisions in football at the moment. But you're right, it was good to see a competitive game. It's the first time Texans have beaten the Colts at home in 3 years, I think it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've always struggled against the Colts, both home and away. So it's a good result for them. DeAndre Hopkins was brilliant again.
Will Fuller was brilliant.
Was brilliant as well. But I don't think anyone ever seems to really talk about DeAndre Hopkins or build him up as a wide receiver as much as they do Mike Evans or OBJ or whoever else, Julio Jones. He's bloody amazing. Like
Greg Ward III.
He could have Jared Goff thrown to him, and I'm pretty sure DeAndre Hopkins probably would score touchdowns.
Probably.
He's literally quarterback proof, as we said before, and I'd want him in my team.
I'd sell the farm to
Yeah.
get him in New York.
Oh, you sold the farm for Daniel Jones.
Just yeah. Oh, what you'd want Hopkins there picking up Jones's fumbles.
And then just running him in for
Probably
touchdown.
would catch those as well.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, yeah, Jacoby Brissett wasn't brilliant on the day, but to keep the teams to be so competitive and so close in this division, there's a good chance both of these teams are coming out of this division, or 2 of 3 anyway, with the Titans as well. And this is just the AFC is always seen as the weaker of the 2 conferences.
Certainly over the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, which is fine, but actually some of the best games are found because some of the teams are so closely aligned inside their own divisions, and this is one of them. Like you say, Texans haven't beaten the Colts at home in years. Same reason that the Jags never beat the Titans, and so on and so forth. It's good to see teams be this competitive. Carlos Hyde did a good job again, 67 yards on 16 carries, just chewing up the turf.
I think he's been pretty impressive this year.
But Jonathan Williams taking over for Marlon Mack on the Colts, 26 carries, 104 yards, 4 yards of carry, and a touchdown. It's like there's been no problem with the changeover of the baton there. It's just passed from one to the other.
Yeah, it's just a good running team. I think, but when you've got an offensive line that's led by Quinton Nelson, the man monster, it's pretty easy to run behind that.
Yeah, it is.
They have lost Ebron though.
Yeah, he's been put on IR for surgery on both ankles. I mean,
Yeah.
and he was their lead receiver on the day, 4 receptions for 44 yards. I mean, how good would he be with 2 working ankles?
Yeah, and T.Y. Hilton isn't 100%, is he? I mean, I was surprised
No.
he played, actually, in the
He's
game.
there because this was so important. I think if this hadn't been a divisional game, he doesn't play.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
They need to get Zach Pascal involved more. He was 0 of 0 for 0 yards. And
One
actually,
target. The
yeah,
only reason he's showing up in the stats.
and actually, when T.Y. Hilton was out, Zach Pascal played very well. And they need to feed him the ball so that Hilton isn't double covered all the time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
It seems like an option that they're not using enough. I think you got to mix it up a little bit more. You can't rely on Hilton when he's clearly injured, and now Ebron's out. That's done as well.
But at least they've got Jack Doyle still.
Yeah.
And you've got
Passable.
Mo Ali
Serviceable,
Cox
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Who at one point caught a touchdown, I think.
Chester Rogers is there as well.
Lots and lots of players.
Should we do some more in the AFC? So Dolphins 24, Browns 41.
Beat down the Browns fans were waiting for, actually hanging
Yeah.
some points on the team. Jarvis Landry putting his old team to the sword.
And you know what? Isn't it nice? Because in soccer, you get used to players going back to their old teams. They score a goal and they don't celebrate. It's all Even though you're like,
I hate that.
there was John Joe Shelby the other week scored against.
I hate it. No, sorry.
He scored against Liverpool, and he refused to celebrate. And you're like, they could not have tried any harder to kick you out. Just turn around to the boss and give him the middle finger, and be like, move on. Yeah.
What was good to see in this
And
game was...
Landry did. He loved it.
And he had an amazing game, 10 receptions, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns. But this was, like you say, this is the performance Browns fans have been waiting for. Yeah, it's coming against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are awful. Chubb got a touchdown. Kareem Hunt got a touchdown. Jarvis Landry got 2. Odell Beckham got a touchdown. Looked much better than he has all season. And this is what we were expecting from the Browns. And, finally they've had a good game. Baker Mayfield played well, 24 from 34, 327 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. But, he's still young. And it was great to see finally.
Yeah.
It's against the Dolphins.
It is the Dolphins.
So let's see what they do next week.
Who Fitz was still fine. And should we move to the Bills 20, Broncos 3? Gore. How'd you like it?
I like it very, very much because
In a
Frank
gold
Gore
jacket.
passing Marshall Faulk for 3rd rusher of all time. Was it Marshall Faulk? No.
Barry Sanders.
Barry Sanders.
Well, no, he passed both of them.
Both of them
in
on the
game,
day.
yeah.
But Barry Sanders into 3rd, quite right. And they're just measuring up for the gold jacket already now.
Absolutely.
Other than that, he didn't do a lot. He's not a great rusher anymore.
Like, 35 now, is he?
What's wrong with being 35?
Absolutely nothing, but you're not playing in the NFL.
Did you hear his interview after the game? You could tell that's a man that's played for 15 years and got hit a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't he only missed 2 games since 2010 or something ridiculous?
I mean, to be fair, he deserves to go in the Hall of Fame just for longevity purposes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, but he's got the stats to back it up. He's 15,289 yards.
Yeah.
Average of 4.3 across the. Any running back getting an average of over 4 is a good running back. Like if you get 3 carries of 4 yards, you've got a first down. That's what you want.
Yep.
Josh
Allen. Do you want to-
Josh Allen.
Well, yeah, I do, but just before that, so the Browns. So the Browns have won 3 in a row, right?
Yep.
The last time the Browns and the Jets both won 3 consecutive games was
1986.
1986. The
I
last
wasn't
time.
born then. I'm 32 years old.
Yeah, exactly. That's how long these franchises have been pup. So I just wanted to get that in there before I forget
So
it, basically.
the Browns stopped being a franchise and were reactivated in that time, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Great.
they had 3 years out, 4
It's
years out.
pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's how bad they were. They didn't exist for a little while.
I said this last week about organisations who are bad stay bad until they change ownership, more or less.
Yeah, it's true. I do want to give Josh Allen some praise. You're right, because he was supposed to be coming into this game not able to beat Chris Harris. I didn't play John Brown in my fantasy team just because of this. And he struggled a little bit early on and then basically decided, no, I'm just going to throw it anyway and see what happens. And what happened was a brilliant touchdown catch by Brown. It absolutely hit him right there. Beautiful catch, scored. And I'm not sure what else anybody wants from him. He runs. He's probably the 3rd or 4th best rushing quarterback out there.
Maybe the 2nd, 3rd. No, he's great.
And
he's
he's scoring.
Second-year quarterback.
Yeah,
Not in a great team.
He's one of these people who's just a good all-rounder. He's not the best rushing quarterback. He's not the best throwing quarterback.
But he's decent enough. I mean, let's face it, the Bills are now 8-3. I think they're 2 games clear. I think they've got the 5th seed at the moment, and I think they're 2 games clear of the wild card race. And other teams that are 8-3, the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
And yes, I think the Bills have got a better defense than the Packers. I think that's kept him in a lot of games. They haven't scored as many points, but Josh Allen, for a second-year quarterback, is getting the job
He's
done.
thrown 15 touchdowns to 8 interceptions this year, but the more important stat, I think, is the fact that he's rushed for 7 touchdowns already. He rushed for 8 last year. He's rushed for 7 with, 5 games to go?
Yeah.
It's like teams, they expect Lamar Jackson to run. They expect Deshaun Watson to run. It's like they almost forget that Josh Allen can also, he's pretty, like you say, a decent runner. He's a big guy as well.
Yeah.
Like, he's hard to tackle.
Yeah, one of his biggest detractions last year was that his completion percentage was only just over 50%. It was 52%.
Yeah, his accuracy was bad in
Yeah,
college.
this year he's up to 60%. That level of improvement, if he can do that again for another year...
Oh, if he got to 70% completion, that'd be phenomenal.
Yeah.
I've been down on the Bills as a whole.
We had noticed.
We were at the start of the year, before the season
Yeah.
started as well.
But I'm just looking at the other teams chasing them for playoff spot, and
They're pretty
Raiders.
much sewn up, aren't they?
but the ones chasing, so I can't say the Bills are going to be in the playoffs because they just play bad teams. Because the Raiders, I mean, they're in the hunt. They suck still. The Steelers are awful. Browns, yeah.
They're not, the Browns
Colts and Titans are all right, but yeah. So I think they're on merit. So yeah.
Speaking of rushing quarterbacks,
makes
did
me
you see
angry.
who the lead rusher for the Dolphins was against the Browns?
Ryan
Fitz.
Fitzpatrick.
37-year-old Ryan Fitzmagic on his birthday, still the best player on the Dolphins team.
Having a whale of a time, just loving it.
A Dolphin of a time. But yeah, he's having a great time. He absolutely could not be having more. I can't believe you didn't see that. Can't believe you didn't see that coming. I thought you were setting it up. Yeah, I mean, look, the guy is just basically like, I'm 37, I'm being paid millions to just stand here and lob this ball around and run. There was one point where he took off for what was a 5-yard run, and John and I thought he might have hopped because he was so slow. But
glacial.
Glacial is how John described
you
it.
could almost see it with Tua Tagovailoa not being as good as he high in the draft as he once thought it was. The Dolphins might actually pass on a quarterback and take someone like Chase Young, keep Fitzpatrick for another year, and then draft a quarterback next year.
I hear there's a good one coming that year.
Yeah, what's his name?
Sunshine.
Brilliant.
Lawrence.
The one. Trevor Lawrence, yeah, Clemson quarterback.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I still think with the capital they've got, they will take a quarterback.
I think they will probably as well, but they might get one. It might not be their first pick. It might be their second pick in the first round.
They have got a first-round quarterback on the bench.
No, they've got Josh Rosen.
And that is where he will be staying. Fitz makes the team at least fun, even if not competitive. And right now, what more can you have as a Dolphins fan? Not a lot.
I think that's about it.
The Jags and the Tetons met in the other AFC South matchup, and Nick Foles' return continues to kind of be just like the Nick Foles we expected in Jacksonville, I think.
Rams version of Nick Foles before Goff got there.
He can't leave Philadelphia. This is what happens. Why doesn't he learn?
Tried it once before, didn't work. Tried it again, it's not working.
They were crushed 20-42 by the Tetons, and Tannehill.
Tannehill has earned himself another season, I think.
I think we mentioned earlier, about halfway through the season, we're like, I don't know who would be comeback player of the year, and now I can't think of anyone
other than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Nah, I can't think of anyone other than Tannehill. I think he's been.
I just don't think you're thinking hard enough. He's been good. He's doing the things that Mariota didn't do. He's completing passing, winning. But he's also been good with his legs as well. Like Mariota was meant to be one of these quarterbacks that could rush. He's just never really shown it. Tannehill, former wide receiver, still got the pace, playing really well.
That touchdown he ran in and got absolutely clobbered.
Yeah,
as he
put his body on the line.
Yeah, great.
See, the difference between Tannehill and Mariota is Mariota was a lot injured there.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Well, no, Mariota would never have gone there.
Let's face it, Tannehill he's never been injury free, has he? He's had his fair share of bad injuries, but it doesn't seem to affect him as much. Like you say, he's puts his body on the line. Two touchdowns.
He's much less of a confidence-based player than Mariota. So when Mariota's playing well, he continues to play well. But as soon as it falls apart or he gets an injury or anything, he goes the other way. Whereas Tannehill is very much a plateau quarterback. This is how I play. I know my limitations. Let's not forget, he played on some shonky Dolphins teams.
Oh, yeah.
So he's always had a bit of a reputation.
Is
and this is why I've often said I'd like to see Dalton play somewhere else. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but he's played on an awful team for years.
Dalton will end up at the Dolphins now.
Dalton had AJ Green, whereas Tannehill had Jarvis Landry,
but he has AJ Brown, so that's
and
something.
he's had AJ Brown now, who is looking really good.
But yeah, I think if Dalton would have realised he was being dropped a week before, the Philadelphia could have at least saved themselves this shit show that they're currently in. But
they're never going to trade for Dalton and replace Wentz with Dalton, though.
Whatever. But yeah, it's.
I think for me, this is one thing that frustrates me with all of this is Griff was right.
Yeah, it's so annoying.
And I hate that more than anything.
It does happen occasionally. It's like a stopped clock is right today. If I say enough shit, some of it will stick. Yeah, it's true. But I thought this was reasonably predictable. I don't think this was a hard one to pick out. Tannehill's not a bad. He's a first-round quarterback. He's not a bad player.
So is Josh Rosen.
Yeah, Josh Rosen.
So is Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, and Marcus Mariota should have been better than he was and probably wasn't handled properly, and it hasn't worked out. But Tannehill was always going to outplay him. He'd always get a chance to play, and I think he's going to be the starter there next year.
Yeah, I do as well.
Even if they draft another quarterback, I think they will say, here's your chance to sit and learn behind a player who's done it all and been here already. And so...
done it all.
He's been through all of the things you can do in the NFL other than win the Super Bowl.
Here's a man who's earned money from an NFL team.
Yeah, he's a man who's led last-minute drives to win games. I mean, it's never massively pretty with Tannehill, but it's effective. And effective is all you need when your defense is actually quite good and you've got one or two other pieces and you've got an elite running back. and think Derrick Henry is an elite running back.
Only against this team.
Only in a straight line.
Derrick Henry. I mean, I'm a little biased here because I've got him on my fantasy team. So, quite frankly, I'm in love with him.
Yeah,
He's been brilliant this year. Absolutely brilliant.
He's always brilliant against the Jaguars, though.
He's always the best running back in the world when it comes to against the Jaguars. But he's been great all season. And our colleague who's not here this week,
He who should not be named.
He's not Voldemort.
he slagged me off right royally for taking Henry in fantasy.
He's outperforming Saquon Barkley, who was first overall.
Yep.
Just as an aside, the Titans are now 4-1 under Tannehill, having started 2-4 under Mariota. It's not all on Mariota, but certainly, like I say, effective is the right word. Tannehill's doing the right things. If the Titans are 2 scores down with Tannehill, you think they're still in with a shout. Whereas if they ever got 2 scores down with Mariota under centre, you thought, game's done.
Yeah, done and dusted.
Yeah, and in a tight division, they've got the Raiders this week.
Can you tell me the last Titans quarterback with 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns?
Steve McNair in 2001.
It was indeed Steve McNair in 2001.
To be fair, that's the only other Titans quarterback I know.
That is
Blaine Gabbert.
That is quite
Blame
a comparison. Blame Gabbert, yeah. It's quite some comparison, though, Steve McNair. That's a long time as well, 2001. 18 years since a quarterback at the Titans managed to do that. Gabbert was a Jags quarterback. He was not a Titans quarterback.
Vince Young.
Vince Young.
Sure,
Blaine Gabbert was the Jags' first round choice.
Blaine Gabbert was at the Tetons as well.
Didn't Gabbert come in and replace Mariota on one of his many injuries?
Maybe. Are you not thinking of Matt Castle? Ryan Tannehill.
He did get drafted by the Jaguars.
Yeah, I know I was.
But he has played for Tennessee.
Ryan Tannehill also has 3 rushing touchdowns in the last 3 games. How many did he have in his previous 31 games? 2. I mean...
That was another number I just plucked out of nowhere because I thought it was going to be low.
What more? There's nothing else he can do. If they're not confident in keeping him for next season, they must have somebody very good lined up because I don't see how else he could be projecting himself onto this team.
Should we go on to the other side though? Jags.
It's all over. Marone's done. Coughlin might be out as well. Shad Khan's got to blow this up and start again. He either blows it up and starts again where they are and tries to build, or he says to the league, if you want me to move, this is when we move, and we move now. Because it's over. The fans are not interested. The team is not performing. This is not the defense that it was.
Terrible.
No.
It's more or less the same. Okay, yeah, they've lost Jalen Ramsey, but it's more or less the same pieces on defense that they had
in the Saxonville year.
In the Saxonville year, and it's just not getting the job done.
No, it's
bad. It's just a bad defense.
You do wonder about there's a lot of guys who are sort of contract years, aren't they? Like Ngakwe and...
Ngakwe would get signed somewhere. They should be trying to keep him because he was a great pass rusher. Even last year when they were pretty bad, he was still a good pass rusher. And they let Fowler go because they had Ngakwe.
Yeah, and just you do feel like the 2 players sort of, I think, saving themselves for other teams. But the thing that worries me about having to blow it up and start again is
they got nothing to build around.
No, and Shahid Khan, he has a history of expensive rebuilds in his other franchises that he's to follow.
Yeah,
and he spends big and doesn't always get returns.
I mean, he shouldn't be in charge of anything, really. He should just be the money man.
Yeah.
He's not a Jerry Jones.
But his son does a lot of it, and his son is exactly the same.
But then, they have got Tom Coughlin there. Do they turn it over to him and say, look, you do all the football stuff, we'll do all the business stuff, because he's obviously very good at that because he's made a shit ton of money. Do they let Tom Coughlin have
what does Coughlin do?
I don't know. It's just
because Coughlin's a renowned coach who was the Jags' first ever head coach.
Yeah, that's right.
Give him the reins if you're going to have him there, and let him see if he can work some magic again.
Do they give him the role that John Elway has at the Broncos, where it's like, okay, we're not going to have a GM, we're going to have a executive vice president or whatever it might be, and say, right, you can have the structure you want. Do you want to bring in a GM or do you want to make the decisions? Bring in a new coach, because I think you're right. Doug Marone's done.
It's not even that. If Doug Marone's going, which I think he is, if you're keeping Coughlin in any capacity, you say to him, right, you've got 2 years, you can be Belichick for 2 years, coach and GM, and see what you can do.
I just think he's too old for that. I don't think he'd do it.
But I don't think Coughlin thinks he's too old, and that is where the problem is, because I think he causes problems with Marone and interferes.
Well, yeah.
So if you're going to have him around, you have to let him do everything, or you say you're all gone and you clear out. Because I don't think Coughlin plays well with others. He never had that reputation before. What makes him think he can do it there? I think he really loves being part of the Jaguars franchise. And I think he really loves being in football. And I don't necessarily think he's too old. I just think if you're going to have him there, you might as well let him loose.
So then do you say to him, like you say, you're the czar of football, you're coach, GM, whatever, and bring in an offensive coordinator who you can groom or a defensive coordinator, where you choose to go, to groom to be the head coach when he wants to retire?
Yes. I think so. I just think if Coughlin's going to be there, he needs to be your man. I can't understand how it works. I've never known why they've got two powerful figures, Coughlin and Marone. It cannot possibly be a comfortable atmosphere, especially on a team that loses too much.
Because that's what the Khans do. They just throw money at stuff. Okay. The Raiders, we're going to come to our catchphrase again. They shut the bed, quite frankly, against the Jets. We were calling them the dog shit Jets again 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You've got to remember, they were playing last season the dog shit Raiders.
Yeah, true.
This was the dog shit bowl.
But the Raiders are good.
The Raiders have been all right.
We were legitimately saying they could be they're playoff hopeful. You know, they were challenging. Kansas have dropped off a little bit, and they were challenging Kansas in the AFC West. Certainly looking like they were in for a shout for a wild card. And I don't know what happened on Sunday, because they were
awful,
they were terrible.
Absolutely awful.
You know, the Raiders have got a negative point differential this season, because when they lose, they properly
big,
lose.
Yeah.
And when it starts to fall apart, the wheels come off, because the secondary is terrible. So once they start getting picked on and opposing quarterbacks can see where they need to direct the traffic, that's what happens.
But anything they had on secondary, they traded away to the Texans.
But that guy wasn't very good either. Conley?
Gary on Conley.
Wasn't very good either. That's why they got rid of him. I don't think they're concerned. I think their feeling is, right, we're drumming up some support. We've shown that we can do it on offense. This next draft will be all about defense. Then we'll be a decent team. Because the offense is good. It's just it got away from them so quickly in this game. They didn't know what to do. And also, the Jets finally turned up.
Yeah.
The Jets' defense played. Le'Veon Bell played all right. Still hasn't got a 100-yard game, but he was there. They were using him in play action.
Like the Browns, this is probably the Jets team we're expecting to see coming into the season, where Darnold was really good.
He's been so good since Ghost Game.
Exactly. Well, he had that one bad game against the Jaguars, but then after that,
generally
20 for 29, 315 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
It's the last time the Jets scored 34 plus points in 3 consecutive weeks. Who was their quarterback?
Mark Sanchez?
No. It was.
Vinny Testaverde.
Was it like 2001 or something?
No.
Before then?
2008.
2008. Who was their quarterback?
Fitzpatrick.
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. Wow.
Haven't they finished with 34 points for
Three
games
games
in a row? Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Look,
Lovely consistency.
It's suddenly working for them. I still don't think Adam Gase is the right person, but the team is doing something.
Yeah, that's what scares me, is that he's going to do well enough to get another season. I agree. I don't think he's the right coach.
Well, talking of bowls, it worked for Todd Bowles, didn't it? With this being the dog shit bowl.
Yes, it did. It did. And look, I mean, I want to see Darnold play well. I think he's not been able to represent his talent so far in the NFL. He is the best quarterback out of that draft class. He just hasn't been able to play like it. I don't think another season saddled with Gase is the way forward. So winning now might not be the best thing for him. But
on the other side of the ball, they dropped Carr and brought in Glennon,
who then dropped 2 fumbles in 3
who then ultra shat the bed.
Brought his own bed to the party.
Back to Spud and transporting.
Where's that
he got in the bed. This is someone else's shit. This is the worst.
No point should you be dropping Derek Carr for Mike Glennon.
Mike Glennon came in and shat Derek Carr's bed for him.
It was bad.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they thought they were doing there. I guess basically they just thought the game's away from us. Why are we risking Derek Carr, who's had a really good season?
Because I was following it on Twitter because Red Zone and whatever they hadn't. I said to Mike and I was like, I think they've just dropped Carr, and he was like, nah, they ain't gonna do that. And I was like, yeah, no. And they brought on Glennon. He's like, nah, they ain't going to do that. And then the first thing we see is, oh, yeah, by the way, Scott Hansen comes on. Just to let you know, the Raiders have benched Derek Carr. And then they just showed you his first 3 plays of utter toss.
It was at that point I tuned in properly because I thought that Nate Peterman was going to be the quarterback. I was like, oh, God, here we go.
Peterman's back. That's what we're all waiting for, let's be honest.
I just imagine the sideline of Gruden. Go on, Mike. Show him what you can do. Okay, close.
The thing is, he loves Mike Glennon. He thinks Mike Glennon's brilliant. And 5 years ago, Mike Glennon was a good talent. And his career died the day the Bears drafted Mitchell Trubisky because all his confidence drained out of him.
Yeah, that's saying something.
And it was brilliant, though, wasn't it? Just watch his face. But yeah, should we move on? Steelers 16, Bungles 10.
It's all about the quarterbacks here. So this was a bad game, but Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph might be the worst quarterback we've seen on display this season. They've been winning in spite of him. He got benched in the third quarter, and Devlin Hodges racked up more yards in 2 completions than Mason Rudolph had managed in half a game.
I will just say,
is Mason Rudolph still concussed?
Hodges had those 2 plays. Everything else he did was shit.
Yeah, but at least he had those 2 plays.
At least, but those 2 plays
won the game.
It wasn't him. Washington.
Or James Washington, yeah.
Josh Washington got a
71-yard touchdown.
Yeah, a handoff on BW Webb, who.
BW Webb.
Which is fine.
Giant sucking in the face.
I said this earlier in the season. Do you not think that the Steelers look like they know what they're doing when Hodges comes in? Whereas when Rudolph is in there, everyone just runs around and hopes he throws the ball because he doesn't have any timing. There is no timing. He never throws the ball until someone's got a hand on him, basically.
It's hard to judge on that game because...
we're not just judging on that game. He's been wank.
No, I'm just saying for Hodges, it's hard to judge on whether they have any more confidence because it doesn't seem like they did, but they're missing so many pieces.
They are missing so many pieces. They're not missing Benny Snell Jr., though. What a great game from running. He had 98 yards.
Yep.
Brilliant game.
Yeah, if you brought in James Samuels into your fantasy team, you
face like thunder.
You were a little angry.
Two carries for 6
until Lamar
yards.
came on Monday night and
won it for you.
Won me the division.
Look, Dalton apparently is coming back for the Bungles.
Yep, apparently Ryan Finley is being dropped and Dalton is back in.
Do you think they suddenly realise they need to win a game? Because I do not know why they didn't insert Andy Dalton, win this game, and then just say to him, right, you're off again.
Yeah. I mean,
this game was there for the taking.
Fast towards 0-16.
And it's the least talked about 0-16 I've ever heard. We've had other seasons where teams have been not this bad, and we've been sitting there going, they're going to be 0-16, they're going to be 0-16.
But the problem is you haven't had it. When the Browns went 0-16, they were the true mark of shitting the bed. They were the true mark of suck, right? There was no one else around them who was that bad. But this season, you've got the Redskins who are utter dross. You've got the Dolphins who are purposely trying to be bad.
The Giants
are terrible.
Yeah,
but
I see your point.
The Redskins are having to basically give away tickets to watch shite.
I see your point.
Have we been spoilt for suckiness by the Browns?
I have never been spoilt for suckiness.
It's a bad year.
Have the Browns unleashed Stargate of shite?
The difference is the Browns in their 0-16 year were competitive in 14 out of 16 games that season, and the Bengals have yet to be competitive. This was their closest game, I think.
They were at a point where they were going to beat the Bills,
but they didn't, and they should have beaten. All they had to do was put Dalton in for 2 series in this game, and they win.
There's 1 or 2 games where the Bengals have been competitive, whereas the Browns were in that year they weren't losing.
I think they got blown out twice that year. That's all. The Bengals. It's done, and bringing Dalton back seems futile now, unless they're literally thinking get 1 win, and then drop him again. Because I don't know why else you would do it. Finley, what are you supposed to judge off a guy who's just getting pummeled and hasn't got AJ Green to throw to?
There are so many things wrong with this Bengals team at the moment. They should, before the trade deadline,
We said Green should have gone.
They should have got rid of. They should have tried to trade AJ Green. They should have tried to trade Dalton. They should have tried to get rid of Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlop. Got as many draft picks as they could for the upcoming draft. Blow up the team. Start again because there's no real talent on this team.
Well, finally, just when we thought the Falcons were back on the track, they crashed, burnt, and the Bucks. They made Jameis look competent.
Keeping with the theme of this evening, this bed was well and truly shattered. This was messy.
You having the detail that you provide to us. I'm not going to say script or running order because that's not what it is. You talk about the Falcons being back on the bus. The bus started moving, and it's just like, no, Dan, could we throw you under it first? Is that okay?
Is the bus being driven by that guy from E17, Brian Harvey?
He fell out of his own car and ran himself over.
Dan Quinn's had too many baked potatoes for lunch.
Do you know what though? It's games like this that mean that Jameis Winston's going to be starting for the Bucks next year.
Yeah,
and it's just wrong. He's not this good. 3 touchdowns, the 2 picks in the first quarter were dreadful.
Awful.
What was he doing? But then the Falcons didn't capitalise and let him win. And the Falcons are now back to the bottom of this division again.
Just imagine what a competent quarterback would do with the 2,000-yard receivers in Godwin and Evans.
Godwin deserves more respect. He crucified me in fantasy this week.
Yeah.
But it's the person who owns him in fantasy. That's the problem.
Well, he is the problem, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, 7 receptions, 184 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. The long touchdown was great from him, but the tackling from Atlanta was shonky. And the second one,
To say the least.
second one was a bad throw from Jameis, which he turned into an amazing catch.
Which was tipped.
Yeah, well,
A tipped cat, a bad
I didn't see
throw.
the tip. I didn't-
A bad throw tipped, caught one-handed.
yeah,
That'll do.
by his ankles. He's great. Godwin's been there.
We did get some big guy touchdowns in this game.
The
Vita Vea.
the biggest guy touchdown.
The biggest guy touchdown. Vita Vea, the biggest guy ever to score a touchdown.
Yep.
And
By
Ndamukong
7
Suh.
Are we talking big in size or big in name?
Both.
Good.
Yeah, because you didn't use his full name there.
No, because I can't. It's not like Tua Tagovailoa. I can do that one with the accent.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh became the first pair of defensive tackle teammates to each score a touchdown for the first time in a game since Week 14 in which year?
98.
Nope, much
92.
earlier than that.
84.
89.
I think you'll find it's Tavita, Turiaka, Ono, Tu, Peloto, Masisi, Vahe, Fahoko, Falatau, Vea.
Quick, get his medication. He's having a stroke.
Yeah, he's the heaviest by 7 pounds
Wow.
to catch a touchdown.
His mum's so proud.
Who the chuff is Quadre Ollison?
know.
Is this the guy that the Falcons are now having to play at running back because it turned out Brian Hill could only do it for 1 week?
Well, is it just literally random name generator at running back for the Falcons each
I
week?
assume he's like a member of the cleaning staff or something and they just got him in there.
I just feel it's like Dan Quinn's gone on a website and your name this week, Quandre Allison.
Dan Quinn's just playing Madden.
What's the
That's the name that came up.
What's the American equivalent of teletext? Where we got that Roy Sando.
Oh yeah, Roy Essendoh, the famous Wickham footballer who got his job through teletext.
Yeah.
It is a bit that way.
Some niche knowledge coming into
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a bit sad.
There's a lot of anyone American listening going, what?
What the hell are they talking about?
Shaquille Barrett continuing to be a front
13
runner.
and a half sacks.
12 and a half sacks.
12 and a half sacks, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. Is he leading the sack race? He's certainly right up at the top.
Definitely at the top, yeah.
And let's not forget, Jameis has now set a career high in interceptions for a single season with 20. Just remember, he isn't this good.
It's week 12.
Yeah, he isn't this good. He doesn't deserve to be playing there
I think
next
that's
season.
the reason that I don't think he'll be there next year. Like, he had an off-season coaching with Bruce Arians. If you can't eradicate those touchdowns after one off-season with, let's face it, 4 or 5 years experience as well.
5 years, yeah.
It's just not going to happen, is it?
No.
He's the joint sack leader with Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones and Shaquille Barrett both have 12 and a half sacks.
Yes,
Thank
they
you.
do.
Impressive stuff.
So should we? That was the roundup. So let's take a quick look at the standings. So basically, good week for the Vikings who didn't play. Other than that, it's still Patriots, Chiefs, Ravens, Texans in the AFC with Bills and
Steelers.
Steelers are still in the playoffs, but yeah. And then in NFC, it's 49ers, Saints,
Cowboys.
Packers and Cowboys,
Yep.
and then Vikings and Seahawks in the. So no real change there. Just
The Bengals are the only team mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. Yeah, there will be a few more this week.
Oh, yes.
In the complete... I can't even think of the right word. Complete non-shock of the week. The Bengals are eliminated from the playoff race.
Most obvious shocking fact of the week.
and
In line with the sky is blue, the Bengals are out the playoff race this week.
if New England clinches the playoff this week, if they win and Oakland or Pittsburgh lose,
I'd say we're fairly safe.
if you tie and Oakland lose and Pittsburgh lose, then you still get through.
I think we'll
so
be good.
I think you're fine. And I think in the NFC they clinch the division if they win.
Who, the
Saints.
Oh, the Saints. Right, okay. I mean, I knew it was close for them. I think is game of the week this week Ravens and Niners? No?
It's not in prime time.
What?
Yeah. The Ravens and Niners game is a 1 o'clock Eastern time kickoff. So for those viewers in the UK, it'll be the 6 o'clock kickoff.
We need to make sure we're all sitting together to watch that. It's going to be a game.
I mean, I'll be surprised if Sky don't show that game because
Somebody will be showing that
literally,
game.
I mean, the way those two teams are going, it's potentially a preview of the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Elsewhere as well, you've got the Chiefs and Raiders.
I think that is one of the primetime games.
Yeah.
And I think the Patriots is the other one.
Patriots,
So
Texans.
I think Patriots, Texans is that
Cardinals,
Monday
Rams.
nights?
Don't be surprised, by the way, if the Texans, with their Lamar light quarterback, beat the Patriots. Because
Lamar Light. This is a guy who's going to be leading the league in passer rating after his first 3 seasons.
Look, I'm not having
Surpassing
a go.
Kyle
I'm
Walker.
not having a go. What I'm saying is the Patriots lost to the Ravens because we couldn't contain Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson is the next closest.
Deshaun Watson in his first season came very close beating the Patriots as
Yes,
well.
he did.
Yeah.
But this is what the Sean Watson's Texans do. They go and play the Patriots and they lose by a score contentiously.
That's true.
It'll happen again.
That's. I'll leave it up to you. We're an hour and a half in. Do you want to play?
How
your
long's the
Cardinals?
game?
We can probably do it in 3 minutes.
Then let's play the
Do it
game.
in 3 minutes.
Okay.
A quick game of play your Cardinals.
right.
Oh.
This week, we're doing it based on salary of offensive linemen. Because might have a few shocks of like how the ever they were. So we're going to start off Brandon Brooks, who's had an eventful weekend. He, of course, left the game due to anxiety.
Who does he play for?
The Eagles.
He left the game due to what? What
He
anxiety?
had an anxiety attack. And
I'd have an anxiety attack with
Left.
Carson Wentz at quarterback.
So, which is something to consider when
Or a fan
Wentz
We're
has a
playing-
bad game. 2 of his offensive linemen have been diagnosed with anxiety.
Wow.
We're playing play your Cardinals, right? Not who's the biggest pussy of the week.
No. So
So who's the bigger pussy? Him or Deshaun Kaiser?
he earns $8 million a year.
Okay. To be scared.
Yep. Jason Kelsey.
Jason
Kelsey.
Kelsey, does he earn more or less than $8 million?
I would say he earns more because he is a top quality centre.
He is, yeah. I'll go more.
I
as well.
think centres, they're normally the second paid.
8.2.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Boom.
Weston Richburg.
The centre for the 49ers.
Yep.
More.
Less.
Less.
More.
Whoa.
9.5.
We gave him a big contract.
Mike Pouncey.
He's the Chargers
Centre
centre.
for the Chargers.
Less. He's old.
Less.
I've tried to get a lot of centres on Madden.
He's only a couple of years older, but yes, he's on 8.5.
Oh, I like
Ryan Khalil, who is the centre for the Jets.
Oh, less. He's really old. He came out of retirement.
He's
Less.
34.
Yeah, less.
8.4.
Ooh.
So less, just less.
Bloody hell.
Still a lot of money
Made
for
it.
an old guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Joel Bitonio.
Who is the left guard for the Browns.
He is 28.
It must be less.
It has to be less. That
It's
was
terrible.
He has been to the Pro Bowl though. He's high
My
rated.
mum's been
So
to
you're
the Pro
saying-
Bowl.
I'm saying more.
10 million.
Oh, that's overpaying.
Kevin Zeitner,
When traded to the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, more.
More.
12 million. Marquise Pouncey,
The guy who kicks people in the helmet.
centre for the Steelers. More or less?
More.
More than
Less.
12.5.
Less.
Less.
11 million.
For helmet kicking.
Yeah. Lane Johnson, who I think is the other.
Tackle
Eagles.
for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Isn't he?
I think he's the other one who.
And what was the previous number?
Lane
11?
Johnson, 11. He's a tackle more.
Yeah, 13, surely.
11.2.
Ooh.
Still more.
Lane
but-
Johnson's a good player.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Good value.
Okay. Dwayne Brown, left tackle for the Seahawks.
They've got a left tackle.
Yeah.
I just thought they had a sieve.
More or less than
Less.
11.25.
I've got a feeling they gave him a contract because they didn't. They traded for him.
He's 34.
He came from the Texans, didn't he? And he was well paid.
Got
there.
a horrible
He's
feeling. He's
34 years
on
old.
like
I'm
a
gonna
short
say,
deal
yeah,
for like
more.
13 million.
That's
or
a
something.
team that had cap space as well.
Yeah.
And they've given that turnstile a big contract.
Go on.
Yeah.
11 and a half. So more.
Christ almighty.
Okay. Andrew Whitworth,
Less.
Less.
More.
less.
No, I just wanted to be competitive.
So 11.25. Russell Okung, left tackle for the Chargers.
Hopefully less.
13.25.
He was never good at the Seahawks.
Jake Matthews, left tackle for the Falcons. More or less
He
than
was a
13.25.
first round pick. I'm going to go more.
More.
14 and a half.
Oh, Jesus.
Joe Staley,
Less.
left tackle for the 49ers.
I'm going to go less. But,
Less,
you know,
but it
he's-
should be. He'd be worth the
I'm
money.
go more.
14. So
Ooh,
less.
Less.
Nate
value.
Solder, left tackle for the Giants.
more.
I'm going to say more because it'll be funny.
I say 16 million.
15.5 million. He was the most expensive.
He does the same job I do.
He was the most
He's a
expensive.
dental technician.
Taylor Lewan, a walking
Less.
penalty.
Less, but the
Is this
guy is
some
awesome, but he does
contract?
give away too many penalties. But I'm going to say less.
Yeah, less.
More, 16 million a year.
Oh, he's a big dude. Did you see him on the sidelines? He's a big
He
dude.
was the sideline.
And finally, Trent Brown.
More. He's got a huge contract.
Yeah,
Less.
More or less.
18.5 million or
Less.
something.
16 and a half. He's the
Oh,
most highly
Jesus.
paid
Yeah.
offensive lineman.
That is
right
offensive.
tackle for the
Also
Raiders.
one of the biggest.
So
Paid per the pound.
about 4 minutes there. So thank you for listening. Well, we will be back next week with more insight, opinion, and probably just saying shit the bed a lot. Leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen, and don't forget to look us up on social media or on Twitter at the Snap UK. And,
Pubthebed.co.uk.
but from us, it's thank you, and we'll see you next week. And happy Thanksgiving to all American listeners.
All
That's
two
this
of you.
week. Yep.
And what we'd be thankful for is telling us you've shit the bed as a review on Apple.
Yeah, on Apple Podcast. Yeah.